On day one, 24 of the best players in the world powered through Vintage Masters, and Jeskai claimed the ascendancy in Modern. On day two, those 24 became just 4, two giants of the Japanese game, together with the innovator and the reigning world champion. On day three, 72 countries came to battle, with pride in their hearts and smiles on their faces. Now it's time for Magic's annual VIP pool party, and you're invited. Welcome to day 4 of Worlds Week, and welcome to day 2 of the World Magic Cup. I'm your host, Rich Hagan, welcoming you along to Nice, France, part of the Triple R threat here at the desk, sitting alongside Hall of Famer Randy Buehler and Mr. Rashad Miller. Welcome along to you all. Randy, first to you, highlight of yesterday.
For me, it's Israel and Shahar Shenhar. You know, people have talked about Shahar, he's the reigning world champion, but that Israel team almost made the top 8 last year. They were actually playing France in a win-in to make it the top 8. France obviously went on to win the tournament, but now France is gone. Here's Israel. They're sitting as a 1 seed going in. They're in great shape for Shahar to try to pull off the double.
Right, the Dream Chaser, he's still going for it. Rashad, how about you? Highlight from yesterday.
For me, it was the Slovak Republic. They are the overall 2nd seed, and they did it with a pretty innovative strategy. Usually, the teams take their 2 power hitters, set them up that they're going to play every round, and then the other 2 teammates kind of double team the other opponent. But the Slovak Republic, they went for the sit one of their powerhouses out and just play coach for all 3 games. And it led them to be 2nd seed overall and 1st in their pot.
All right, so Randy, why don't we take people through the schedule and what we can expect to see today and how we got to today. So let's see the schedule and formats for the World Magic Cup.
Yeah, day 1, relatively normal as Magic tournaments go. 3 rounds of Team Sealed, followed by 4 rounds of Constructed. You play 7 rounds of Swiss, you cut to the top 32. Sounds like a Magic tournament, right?
Yep, that's absolutely fine. So let's get to day 2, which is what's coming up right now. Yeah. Now, here we go.
This is truly unique. This is, I love it. I think this is one of my favorite Magic formats of the year. The 32 teams are divided up into pools, 8 pools of 4 teams each, kind of like an international soccer tournament. And then what's going to happen this morning is that you're going to play 3 rounds of Team Sealed. You play against each of the other 3 teams in your pool. Pretty straightforward. It's just a round robin inside your pool, and then the top 2 teams advance. The bottom 2 teams are eliminated from the tournament, so we cut to 16 after that round of pool play.
Okay, let's go on to part 2 of day 2, where you're going to see pretty much the same information, just cut in half.
Absolutely. Now the remaining 16 teams get divided up into 4 pools of 4, and then once again, round robin inside the pool, you play every other team, and then we see which 2 teams have the best record inside of that pool. Those 2 teams advance to the top 8. Those 2 teams come back, part of our just marathon of awesomeness on Sunday.
Right. Now the most important thing to remember is that seeding matters. Boy, does it ever. We'll show you the pools in just a moment. But if you are a top 2 seed, a 1 or a 2 in your pool, you only need 2 and 1, 2 wins, 1 loss from your 3 matches to advance.
Yeah, that seeding is essentially the tiebreaker. So if you wind up tied for an advancement spot, whoever had the better day 1 is going to advance. It matters. I mean, it's not the end. It's not everything.
No.
Right? Anybody who 3-0s is definitely advancing. 2-1 is probably going to advance, even if you came in as a low seed. It's just not guaranteed.
For sure. Rashad, what's on the line? Money, pro points, prestige, pro tours.
You know what? I think it's all 4 of those.
Right.
It wouldn't be a professional Magic tournament if it wasn't. You probably wouldn't be watching it here on Twitch. So if we could take a look at the prizes, you can see the first place. That's $12,000. That's not a small chunk of change.
Yeah, and that's per player.
Yeah, this is per player. Usually the prizes are, you know, oh, we have to divide this by 4, but this is each person's getting these sets of prizes. And don't forget the pro points. 8 pro points for a lot of these players who are from countries that don't have as many premier events. They don't get this chance to get to GPs the same way that a lot of other players do. 8 pro points is enough to probably get them to championship and get invited to the World Magic Cup next year.
Yeah, don't forget the text in the right-hand corner of this, too. Everybody who makes it to Sunday, that's 8 teams times 4 players each, get invited to the Pro Tour.
And that's a big deal.
This is definitely a path to the Pro Tour for countries that may not get a lot of Pro Tour qualifiers.
Exactly.
All right, so why don't we show you the top of our Masters scoreboard from yesterday. Players, they played 7 rounds as countries. Let's see the top of our Masters scoreboard, and there you see it, Malaysia at the top. Rashad, what stands out for you on our first sheet of the top 18?
Well, I already told you how the Slovak Republic stood out for me earlier, and they had the pool because I had a chance to go out and do some scouting. They were able to get two color decks and a perfect mana Abzan deck. So they have a red-green aggro deck, they have a blue-white aggro deck, and they have an Abzan deck, and that's kind of the dream that you want, at least one of the 2 dreams that you really want when you're building these sealed team decks.
Okay, let's go on to our second set of teams, and Randy, this is where some of the drama really happened late last night.
33rd Japan, 34th Germany. We knew all day long that 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that neighborhood teams were going to miss the cut at 4 and 3. Yuya Watanabe had the winning-in feature match in the last round. He's actually playing against his own standard deck that he's unleashed on the world by making top 4 on the individual side. He loses, but his teammates come through. It's super dramatic. Japan's got the winning in. Oh, they fall 1 short on tiebreakers. As did Patrick Dickman and the Germans, who knocked out France in the last round, gave France the lethal 4th loss, but their tiebreakers didn't hold up either. So, yeah, the story there is who didn't make it for me. It's Japan and Germany right on the bubble.
For sure. Now, on the top right-hand corner of your screen, you will see a little hashtag, MTGWMC. We want you to use that right now because at the end of our first round of action in the feature match area, the 3 of us are going to be joined by Ben Hayes, one of the designers and developers from Inside R&D. He'll be right here with us, and we want you to ask us anything you want. You can ask us about Worlds Week, you can ask us about the World Championship, the World Magic Cup, you can ask Ben all about working inside R&D, you can ask him about future sets, which he won't answer, you can ask him about current sets, which he will, or past sets, which he may or may not. Anything you want to know about R&D, coverage, this tournament, other tournaments, the hat collection, just ask us anything. That's at hashtag MTGWMC, and we'll be with you answering your questions, as many as we can get through between the first and second rounds this morning. Okay, why don't we look at the pods while the players are getting seated for our first round of action. Let's look at Pool A. Malaysia, Hong Kong, Thailand, and Greece. All the records are reset. So who do we have? Randy, you've got some intel on Pool A.
Yeah, no, I watched Malaysia build, and first of all, it's quite the sort of Far East flavor to this group. It's kind of cool, actually. Malaysia, I walk up, they kind of noticed me right away. I mean, this is a team that maybe wasn't expecting to be first place overall. They're like, oh, hi, right? How are the decks, I say. One guy says, not very good, but his teammate says, that's what you said yesterday. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Excellent.
They've got a Mardu tokens with a Sarkhan and an Ankle Shanker, Spoils, couple of Chiefs. That deck looked pretty good. They've got a Sidisi deck that looked like it didn't have all the tools you would necessarily need. But I mean, you got to find a home for Sidisi. They had a Villainous Wealth in there. And then their Abzan deck as well. And I was a little... It felt like their pool may not have been the best synergy because they're playing both Abzan and Mardu. So they're playing a pair of black-white base decks. And I don't know. I think that that was pretty early in the build, and I'm kind of hoping for their sake that they managed to find a way to sort of fight less with their 3 decks. But they seem to be struggling to get all the cards dealt out efficiently.
Okay, what about Hong Kong? Anything with them at all? Get a chance to see Li Shichan, Meng Qizheng?
Yeah, I mean, they've also got a Black-White Warriors deck, but I mean, they've got all the good Black-White cards in the one deck. It's got a Spoils, it's got a Rush of Battle, it's got a Chief. It's kind of an okay Black-White Warriors deck. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, it was solid. They've got a 4-color Control, Villainous Wealth, Dead Drop. Again, it looked okay to me, but not spectacular. The deck that looked great to me, though, was the blue-green with a touch of red deck. 2 Ice Feather Avens and a Sagu Mauler.
Wow, nice.
Crater's Claws on the splash, just kind of the perfect, yeah, exactly. Kind of that deck looked great, but I don't know that I love their other two decks.
Okay, Rashad, you've already talked about Slovak Republic. They are the #1 seed in Pool B. Let's take a look at Pool B for you. It's got the Slovak Republic in, South Korea, Scotland, and Guatemala. What else you got for us?
Well, obviously, I went over to talk to I didn't talk to the South Korean team, but I kind of looked over what they were building their decks. They have a very good Absent Control deck, which features Death Frenzy, and I think those are in Hostilities. But the other two decks, it was kind of interesting because they had a Teamer build and they had a Mardu build. But there was this pool of like Jeskai morphs that they kept flipping back and forth between the two. Like they couldn't figure out if one of those was going to be a 4-color deck and just play those morphs or not. And it was just interesting because I couldn't understand what they were saying. But the cards just kept flipping, like just turning their orientation backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And I wanted to stay to see, where they ended up, but I have to go around and look at some other decks.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to Pool C, where the Netherlands, Russian Federation, Spain, and Venezuela will be going at it. But I can tell you that right now in the feature match area, the Gladiators are ready. We are going to start with Pool E. And in that pool, Hungary are facing Norway. But we begin day 2 of the World Magic Cup with Hall of Famer Ole Rade and the rest of the fabulous Sweden team. And they are up against, he said in an utterly unbiased fashion, go Team England, go Team England, go Team England. Go.
Thanks, Rich. Brian David Marshall here with Pro Tour Hall of Famer and Pro Tour champion Ben Stark. And we are about to watch Sweden versus England. Let's go right down to the floor. The guys are ready to go. Here we are, day 2, the World Magic Cup. Hello and welcome to day 2 of the World Magic Cup. I'm Brian David Marshall, joined by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Ben Stark, and we are about to watch Team Sweden, one of the top seed teams in this tournament, playing against Team England, one of the team that really charged back from 0-2 to rattle off 5 straight wins. And we're going to see there you get a look at Love Janse. He has as much Pro Tour experience as all of Team England. He has 6. There you get a look at Fabrizio and Terry. He also has 6, but those are the only 6 Pro Tour appearances on the English team.
Meanwhile, the rest of Sweden is Ole Rade and Joel Larsson, so that's a pretty experienced team.
Right, 39 Pro Tours for Ole Rade and a little bit more than a dozen for Joel Larsson.
Yeah, probably only trumped by Frank Karsten alone.
Yeah. So Fabrizio, by the way, started this game out on 5 cards. He mulliganed to 5, but has a reasonable draw here. Plays 2 lands and an Einok Bondkin.
And he looks to have a pretty low curve. He also has 2 Leaping Masters, Mardu Heartpiercer. He's got a Sarkin. It looks like a really nice Jeskai deck.
So what is the matchup here? As we see a Ruthless Ripper played face up by Love Janse.
We're looking at Jeskai versus Mardu. Both guys are pretty much straight 3. There's the lightest color in the Jeskai deck is blue, which he's got 4 sources of, so not straight 3, but not exactly a light splash. The Mardu, I'm sorry, the Abzan, not Mardu, I apologize. The Abzan lands are 5 swamp, 3 plains, 4 forests, plus he's got a bunch of duels, so basically straight 3 Abzan.
There you see Love Janse playing a morph, taking it out of his sleeve. That's a great thing to do if you're worried about getting game lost for not revealing your morphs. Even if you pick that card up, put it in your hand, because it's not sleeved, you can show people that it was a morph that you didn't reveal. It's an Abzan guide, we know.
Yeah, I mean, that's
pretty much one of the
strategy.
Premium cards to have as a face-down morph in Abzan.
Yeah, I really like that guy. Abzan tends to be a little bit slower, kind of filling the control deck role a lot in this format. Like Sultai might be the true control deck, but with how aggressive Jeskai and Mardu tend to be, and even Timur is really a creature deck you're attacking a lot, I find the life gain from the Abzan guide to be really, really positive for you, especially with Bitter Revelation at common. That's a card I like a lot, but obviously you fall a little behind, you lose a little life, so I think it has really good synergy with Abzan guide.
There you get a look at on Terry's hand. And I'm not sure what his morph is face down. And then we see an Abzan Battle Priest join the Swedish team.
That guy is good, but he hasn't super impressed me. He's still a little slow. A 4-mana 3/2. He can't really block positively when he comes into play. You have to spend a turn outlasting him.
Can't really do anything until turn 6. Although I guess if you have some Outlast guys early, he makes them a little more swingy.
Yeah, and you can fall behind if you're going to start gaining life, with all your creatures, and then catch back up. So he's definitely a good card. I don't think he's a great card, though.
Right. And Terry sends his creatures into the red zone. The Bondkin's not blocked. The morphed War Behemoth eats the Ruthless Ripper, and another morph comes down for Anteri, who finds his 4th land as well.
This could be a tight game because even though Anteri mulliganed to 5, Love doesn't seem to have a forest, so he's pretty limited on what he can do.
Right, but if he finds a forest, he starts, gaining back chunks of life for a turn.
Yeah, if he finds a forest quickly, he's going to be at a pretty big advantage. But I think that Fabrizio can cast pretty much his whole hand, and he's got a pretty aggressive hand, Leaping Master and Jeskai Charm. So he's going to try and end this game before Love can find that forest.
There you get a look at Anteri as he sends his creatures into the red zone. And then we'll see Leaping Master here with mana for Jeskai Charm in his back pocket.
And he could have unmorphed the Canyon Lurkers, which if he didn't have Jeskai Charm in hand, I think would have probably been the correct play because it's more damage than playing the Leaping Master. But he definitely doesn't want to take hits from that Abzan Battle Priest, so I'm pretty sure he's going to end up Jeskai Charming that, putting it back on top, because his whole goal for this game is basically, keep the board about as it is, stunt Love's development, don't let him find that forest, and if he puts that Battle Priest back on top this turn, and Love didn't find the forest, he could kill him. Like, he could definitely, attack next turn, then the Battle Priest gets replayed, attack again, then it gets outlasted, and he could end this game before he starts, taking advantage of that lifelink.
Yeah, Love did not find the forest, but he did find a Blossoming Sand, so he's going to have green next turn.
Well, that's going to make it really interesting. Because obviously, if he wants to flip the Abzan Guide or something, he's not going to be able to replay the Battle Priest. But if Fabrizio doesn't really find anything, flipping the Abzan Guide could easily be enough. It's really a key draw, because if that wasn't the Blossoming Sands, if that was just, some green card he can't cast, he might have lost this game. This might be the last turn that he had to draw that forest, since we know next turn he's drawing Abzan Battle Priest.
So morph trades with Leaping Master. Jeskai Charm puts the Battle Priest back on top. Sagu Archer's the morph that chose to attack. The other morph stayed home. Pretty telling that that's probably an Abzan Guide.
Right.
And Alabaster Kieran is going to join the Abzan side of the table for Sweden.
Which definitely makes that block with the Leaping Master look good. I didn't love that block because he doesn't really have any cards in hand, so he could afford to start spending the 3 to give it flying, and the evasion could have finished off the game, potentially. But obviously, with it being a Sagu Archer, it could have blocked the flyer, and then an Alabaster Kieran coming down would have been able to block the Leaping Master. So it looks like he knows a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, I don't believe players got to look at deck lists beforehand. So
yeah, I don't think that was a great block, but I think it's working out for him here.
So now we're going to see a Canyon Lurkers and get in for 6. That's going to drop Love to 5.
Yeah, so imagine if he didn't have the Blossoming Sands. Imagine if that was just some green card.
I'm sorry, that's the 5-2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, so that's 8. So he drops him to 3.
Right, and we know that he can gain life back and maybe stabilize as long as Fabrizio bricks next turn. But imagine if he didn't draw the forest this turn, what this game would look like.
Oh, yeah.
It would be super close. As it is now, it's still a pretty interesting decision. He might unmorph here, go to 7 and hit with the Kieran, but then he'll die if Love finds if Fabrizio...
Anything to clear the path?
Yeah, if Fabrizio finds anything to kill the Kieran.
Okay, here comes the the Abzan Guide.
So he does make that play. I like this play. But, yeah, removal here wins the game. Fabrizio definitely has outs. He has Arc Lightning, Arrow Storm, 2 Bring Lows. He's got tons of outs.
How about Sarkin?
No,
there we go.
That doesn't work. Bring Low wins the game, but Sarkin's not quite enough.
You're going to look at Sarkin, the Dragon Speaker. Oh, boy. Wow, that was a hell of a top deck.
Yeah, and he wins on the Multi 5.
Yeah. Well, he would have just drawn that card if it was his 6-card hand, right? He would have had that all along.
Yeah, that was fun. It ended up kind of being a fair game.
We have a couple messages, and we'll be back with more action from the World Magic Cup.
Have you ever dreamt of drafting the greatest hits of Magic? The all-new Legacy Cube is available on Magic Online until December 10th. Download Magic Online at www.mtgo.com and live the dream. Friday Night Magic expands to all formats starting in 2015. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts at Friday Night Magic. Check out your local store for details, and remember to tell your friends Friday night is about to get even better. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
Welcome back to the action. I'm Brad David Marshall, joined by Ben Stark. We are going to take a look in on our match between David Ingles of the English team and Joel Larsson of Sweden. Joel Larsson, of course, someone you played in the finals of Pro Tour.
Yeah, in the semifinals of Pro Tour Gatecrash. Yeah, we played a really fun, really tough 5-game match, Esper versus Blue White Red. And, I was up 2-1. He actually took it. Game 4, I felt like I got a little unlucky, but Game 5, I felt like he outplayed me.
Yeah, you have a lot of you said you have a lot of respect for his play skill. David Ingles is someone who has not played on the Pro Tour yet in his career and is looking at this World Magic Cup as his PTQ.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. Obviously, if he hasn't played on the Pro Tour yet, this is a big opportunity for him. Maybe I can get familiar with him if England can advance to the top 8.
Yeah, there you see he just played a Siege Rhino and outlasted his Crows and Tusk captain. His and Larsson outlasts his Bondkin, plays his Leaping Master. What do these two decks look like? Obviously, Mardu versus Abzan. Anything we should be keeping an eye out for here?
Well, the Abzan deck looks like it's trying to go long. I mean, it's got Double Archer's Parapet, so it's not very aggressive. And we can see with the Tuskguard captain and the Siege Rhino that it feels like it probably has a pretty good mid to late game.
You like Joel Larsson putting his 2 creatures together to show the double block on the Siege Rhino to.
And then when David does attack, he probably won't double block,
exactly.
fearing the blowout.
Yeah.
Little mental game. I mean, I actually have no idea whether he will or won't double block. We just tagged into this game, but it would be pretty risky.
Yeah.
And apparently it's working. He doesn't seem to be attacking.
Yeah, just maybe figures, if he shows him the double block and he doesn't have a trick, the player, David's a little less experienced than Joel, maybe he can sort of intimidate him.
In the Pro Tour, Luis Scott Vargas went 16-0 in San Diego back in 2010. He once cracked a fetch land main phase to get basic Mountain, just so his opponent knew Lightning Blast was a possibility. And he did, Lightning Bolt, and he didn't have a Lightning Bolt in his hand, and he needed his opponent to not go for it or something like that, so he just wanted to show him, hey, this Aaron Mesa can get Mountain, and I can cast Lightning Bolt. I made fun of him for that one for a long time, but it worked, and he went 16-0, so I guess he got the last laugh.
Yeah. I think Simon Gertzen had the last laugh, actually.
Touche.
So we've got Abzan Guide mana for David, but he's gonna outlast his 2 guys and play a morph. Outlast. Yep. He's like, which morph are you playing? There you go. Okay, this game's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere.
I don't think these guys are going anywhere. We're going to go back to our main match, which is between Love Yance and Fabrizio Anteri. And Fabrizio is up a game despite a mulligan to 5 in Game 1.
It's not easy to win on a multi-5, so it's got to feel good. Feeling like if you overcame that, you're probably in good shape for this game, even though it doesn't actually mean you're more or less likely to win this game.
You're like, my deck is so sweet.
Yeah, basically. Like, I just won on a multi-5.
So gain lands for both players. Tranquil Cove for Fabrizio Anteri. Jungle Hollow for Yance. And he plays on Archer's Parapet. We could be here a while, too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I see a lot of people in this format just always choose to play because of the morphs, which is often correct. But then I'll see them do something like a turn 2 Archer's Parapet, and I wonder if their curve was good enough that they maybe could have chose to draw first. I mean, if you're a debilitating injury Archer's Parapet deck, there's a good chance you should be choosing to draw and your opponent should be choosing to draw. You're not going to fall behind. Your 2-drops stop everything until turn 5.
Right.
And they don't attack. Debilitating injury is a great card, but it doesn't attack.
And there you see the debilitating injury in Yonsei's hand. So interesting. I have not thought about that. I might try that at my F&M.
I mean, not that, Yonsei knew he was going to draw this exact hand, but when you take a look at his hand, it doesn't look like being on the play offered it much. It's a bunch of removal. It's cheap removal, so it's not like he's going to fall behind. If he knew he was going to draw this set of cards, he would definitely choose to draw. So it's a question of what the rest of his cards look like also.
Right. I also see like Kill Shot and cards like that. I assume that all plays into into that strategy because you're behind a turn, your opponent's unmorphing an Obzon Guide, and you're able to Kill Shot it. Or
creatures do better on the play. Removal does better on the draw. So, I mean, if you're a lot of cheap removal and defenders, then obviously it makes sense for you to draw. And it also makes sense for your opponent to draw because you're not doing anything with those by putting them out first. So you kind of both want to go second in that situation.
So Suspension Field's going to take out the flyer.
Yeah, I like this. He can keep leveling up that Bonkin. It'll be past the parapet in like a turn.
Yeah, next turn it becomes a 5/4 first striker.
And you might be saying, well, that sounds like a heavy investment, but he doesn't have much else to do. His hand is a Jeskai Charm and a Leaping Master and land. So I'm pretty confident that he wants to go ahead and take care of the flyer, get the Bonkin past the parapet, and just play his Leaping Master this turn. He basically did everything he wanted to do anyway.
Right. Looks like I see it. Oh, that was a smite, and that was a smite in Love's hand. But he also does have a Kill Shot in his deck.
And he also has a Windstorm in his hand. So I don't think we'll see debilitating injury on the Sleeping Master since he probably figures he can Windstorm it away. I don't think I would Windstorm it away just yet. I'd probably take a hit or two, see if maybe I can catch 2 flyers instead of 1.
Well, that Windstorm could be even better than he even could hope for. If you look at the last card that Terry has drawn, it's a Flying Crane technique.
Oh, wow, that could be a huge blowout. But does he know? He doesn't know about the Flying Crane technique, right?
No, he just saw the Sarkhan he can't get, but I guess he just saw some flyers in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, maybe his deck just has a lot of problems with flyers, so he really wanted the Windstorm.
Yeah, we saw, I think, Neil Oliver main deco Windstorm at Grand Prix Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have Archer's Parapets, Obzon Guides, you're really good at holding the ground, but flyers are an issue for you. Although I don't know if that's really the case here for Yonsei that much because, I mean, he does have a lot of removal from what we've seen. Between a Kill Shot, Smite the Monstrous, Debilitating Injury, I mean, you would think, Obzon Charm, you would think he would be confident enough against a few flyers. His own flyer, we see an Alabaster Karen off to the side.
So and Terry feels no need to leap his master because he knows his Summit Prowler's getting blocked anyway.
Yeah, both players are playing pretty slow right now, which is probably correct for both of them.
We may see a Leaping Master do his thing this turn, though, now with 2 Archer's Parapets acting as a clock for Yonsei.
And I wonder if he'll Windstorm it. I probably would because at this point, you got to know your opponent's not really holding any flyers because they'd just be in play. So unless you think they have Flying Crane technique or something like that, there's not really a reason not to Windstorm the Leaping Master, I don't think. Just really...
What about pure greediness?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously he's not... his life total's pretty high, so he could wait a few turns in case, his opponent draws a flyer, and then you get the 2-for-1. But I don't know. He's got a bunch of removal in hand, and I just don't see you sitting here taking 2 a turn against a deck that clearly has some reach in the hopes that they draw a flyer over the next couple turns. I would have not Windstormed it had he given it flying on like turn 5 or something, but at this point in the game, I would Windstorm it.
And then face-up's a Woolly Loxodon.
He might just be dead here. Flying Crane technique is a lot of damage.
Taps out, Flying Crane technique, that
looks like 20.
at least 20.
Yeah, and he was at 17. So if he had Windstorm that Leaping Master, this actually wouldn't be lethal. He would probably go on to lose because I think Fabrizio has Jeskai Charm in hand also. But this kind of shows you here, like he's just taking the 2 like nothing could happen. But Flying Crane technique is a card, and this is team sealed. Heck, it's not even a mythic, so it's a card that a Jeskai player is somewhat likely to have.
Right.
I definitely did. Yeah.
Johnsey shows him. Johnsey shows him the windstorm that he had. Wow.
Yeah, I really don't like how Johnsey played that game. I think that he should have windstormed the turn before at least, if not, if there wasn't an opportunity before that. And if not, then he could have just,
He could have also faced down the Loxodon and kept his mana up.
Right, and more often than not, you play those type of cards face up because you don't want to die to bring low or some small removal. But in this exact case, holding Abzan Charm and Windstorm, I mean, yeah, he probably should have just morphed it so that he could have had access to that Windstorm.
So we've switched over to our last match to peek in, and we get to see Hall of Famer Ole Rade versus Ricardo Reale. And Ricardo is someone who I don't believe he's actually played on 3 PTs. He's a Grand Prix veteran with like 13 GPs under his belt, and a couple of money finishes.
Meanwhile, Ole Rade playing in his first tournament. Is he the one who won 2 Pro Tours?
Yes, he is. Ole Rade has let's see, 39 PTs, 31 GPs, 5 Pro Tour top 8s, 2 wins, 10 Pro Tour top 64s.
Yeah. A powerhouse in the early days of the Pro Tour.
And very he was on the Swedish team last year that missed the cut. They were the one team to miss the cut at 4-3, and seemed really focused on getting this team further this year.
And what's the record this year?
They came in at 5-1-1.
Oh, very nice.
So they were the top seed in their pool. There you get a look at Ole Rade. Looks a little different than his picture on Sylvan Safekeeper, which was his invitational card. He's also an invitational winner. His long, luxurious locks, long gone. There you see the cards in Rade's hand: a Force Away, an Awaken the Bear, a Mystic, Hooded Hydra.
Hooded Hydra's tough. Hooded Hydra is definitely one of the best rares in the set.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. When you unmorph that guy.
Or sometimes when you dump 10 mana into that guy.
Yeah, normally it's like if they make a good block, then your guy dies when you unmorph it. If you unmorph that guy and they made a good block and he dies, you're happy about it.
Yeah.
I'll kill your biggest dude. I'll make 5/1/1s. Yeah, okay. That's fair.
Oh, and we see he's also got a Ghostfire Blade in his deck. Meanwhile, a Bear's Companion has come down for Ricardo Reale along with the Dancing Bear token. Because that's what it looks like to me.
I don't know about all this dancing, but it does look like Ricardo Reale has got a lot of good stuff to work with. I don't know how Ole Rade is going to stop Hooded Hydra, Mystic of the Hidden Way, Ghostfire Blade, 4 creatures in play, including a bear, dancing or not.
Ole's considering his play. Thinking about maybe just a face-up Mystic of the Hidden Way here.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough spot for Ole. I mean, he's got a lot of action, I guess. Like we said, Hooded Hydra, Mystic of the Hidden Way. What does his opponent have? Does he have anything to push damage through?
He's got a Crippling Chill, Riverwheel Aerialist, and a Water World.
Oh, so he's got tons of ways to push damage through. Okay, so this is going to be a tight one.
And he's on 5 lands, so he's getting close to being able to do everything in his hand.
Yeah, because, I mean, Hooded Hydra is amazing, but it's not that fast. And if you're this far behind, and your opponent has some bounce spells, I'm not sure that Hooded Hydra is going to be that effective in this game.
So face-down card, I think we're going to see a Ghostfire Blade here. There's Ghostfire Blade, equip Ghostfire Blade to the morph. Yeah, that's, I think, the best possible use of his mana.
Yeah, it's almost certainly the right play this turn. And he doesn't draw the land, so I don't think Water Whirl is an option, or Riverwheel Aerialists. So he's got Crippling Chill. The morph is a Mistfire Weaver. It looks like he's going to have to choose whether to Crippling Chill now or to just wait. I mean, bluffing with the morph is probably not a good option. It'll probably get blocked by the flock. I mean, there's some chance that Ole doesn't want to lose the flock to, a Snowhorn Rider or a Pine Walker or something. But 05s are really only good for one thing. I think he could probably Crippling Chill if it gives him like a good attack, which it probably does. If he taps the 4/4 morph, you know, the morph with the Ghostfire Blade on it, he could then attack with everybody. But I guess if he waits, it'll just be an even bigger attack. Maybe
plays
no
an Alpine
rush.
Retaps his mana. He's like, oh, green for the Alpine Grizzly. Got it. So that was the card he drew this turn.
Yeah, I guess he figures if I'm going to Crippling Chill, it's better to have an extra guy in play. He does give Ole the opportunity to play a second big creature, though. And then he would only be able to tap one. But if he draws the land for Water Whirl, he'd be able to bounce both big creatures, and then he would have a great attack. So Ricardo playing very patiently here.
Patiently waiting for land 6.
Yeah, or even just a Crippling Chill later with an extra
Right.
Alpine Grizzly in play, which is potentially more value. So, you know, it's hard to argue against more value.
Here we go. Mystic of the Hidden Way. And get in for 5.
This actually plays really well into Ricardo's game plan. Ole thinking, okay, this is a great clock. I can win this race. But Ricardo, knowing he has Crippling Chill and Water Whirl, is like, yeah, try and race me. That's exactly what I wanted.
Oh, look what he just drew.
Yeah, this is a tough turn. I don't think I just morphed the Sagu Mauler. He has too good of an attack. I think, personally, I would either just Alpha or I would Crippling Chill the Alpine Grizzly and then Alpha. I think I would probably Crippling Chill the Grizzly, knowing I have Water Wall too. If I draw a land, I can still morph the Mauler.
Right.
And I really want to cycle.
Here's your Alpha attack that you were looking for,
but let's see
Ben.
if he's going to Crippling Chill or not. He should attack first so that his guys can't get Crippling Chilled, and then he should, if he's going to Crippling Chill, I'm not saying he should Crippling Chill, but if he's going to Crippling Chill, he should attack first and then Crippling Chill the Grizzly before blockers.
It sounds like he's willing to just trade any one of his guys for the any one of his creatures for the Grizzly.
Which is not wrong, because he's morphing a Sagu Mauler. That's a great turn. I guess I'm a little greedy in that I would Crippling Chill, knowing that if I draw land, I can still morph the Sagu Mauler, and that I have Water Whirl. I think he can afford to be greedy in this position, because if he doesn't draw the land, it's perfectly fine also.
Oh, wow, look at this, though. Try to force away the bear, and now the Mistfire Weaver is going to flip up, give Hexproof to the bear, and counter
and
the force away.
That's another good reason for Ricardo's play. He gets to have the 3 guaranteed, and I guess he's assuming that Ole might have had a force away when he left the 3 open. I wasn't assuming all of that because there's not that many instants for blue-blue-green there. Also, if he did draw the land, he would have been able to do that anyway. So I don't know. I would have probably made the greedy play, but it could definitely be wrong.
Yeah, Ole falls to 9, and he really just has a Hooded Hydra and an Awaken the Bear.
I'm pretty big on the greedy play.
I've been accused of that a time or two in my life as well.
I just never believe anyone I'm playing against is going to have anything.
So face-ups his Hooded Hydra for the same 1 mana less than it would cost to morph it and unmorph it.
And if Ricardo draws a land here, this game is over. He's going to be able to Water Whirl the Mystic and the Hooded Hydra back, make a nice attack, and then still have Crippling Chill.
It looks like instead he just drew another Bear's Companion.
So now he has to make some decisions. If he would Crippling Chill the Hydra, he'd be able to attack on the ground with the bear, and that would be a good trade for him with the Mystic, I think, but it wouldn't really get any damage through. So I don't see any reason to Crippling Chill this turn. I think now he'll just play the Bear's Companion and pass the turn. I mean, it seems like this is a turn where an Alpha isn't going to do very much. Even if he Crippling Chills, it's going to deal 2 damage. I mean, I guess if he trades with the Mystic, that's somewhat positive for him, but I don't really get it.
So he Crippling Chills the Hydra.
I mean, I know he does want to find land 6. That was the reason I wanted to do it the previous turns.
And he did find it. I see a forest in his hand.
Yeah, but he had a Bear's Companion to lay this turn. Such a good 5-drop to put out so much more. I really don't... Yeah, this is a play I really don't get. I really don't get Crippling Chill here. It worked out for him okay. I mean, he's going to be able to morph the Sagu Mauler still post-combat, so that's pretty good. But, I mean, when you have Bear's Companion to just drop, I don't know. I don't see a reason to go ahead and tap 3 and Crippling Chill there. I mean, he could be scared of the Mystic, but he's at 16, and the Mystic already didn't attack last turn.
Right.
So it's not exactly like Ole is going to win this race. And it's not like he was really threatening to, considering he didn't even attack with the Mystic last turn.
Everyone gets in.
I do like this attack. Even though the Mystic can eat a 2-2, a 2-2 is pretty irrelevant at this point. So just sacrificing them to deal some more damage seems fine. And you see that, you know, he got in 4 extra damage than if he didn't send the small creatures. And I wasn't sure whether Ole was going to eat the 2-2 and block the bear with the Monastery Flock and take 5, or whether he was going to make the block he made to only take 4 and trade off the Mystic for the 4-4. And that's a close play, so that's how you know it's right to send both those small creatures.
Okay. And we do see the morphed Sagu Mauler. And Ole just scoops up his cards.
Was Ole just completely out of gas?
It depends. Oli, do you scoop in response to the morph or?
Show me the morph.
Yeah. Anyway, even if it is on stack. Yeah.
You hear the players.
Yeah.
If he scooped in response to the morph, you don't have to reveal the morph.
That's ridiculous. Clearly, I'm not scooping in response to the morph. Put the morph. I'm scooping. I'm not wasting our time. I'm not dragging this out. I'm giving you the win. Show me the morph that you just cast, buddy. Come on now. Be reasonable here. You know. Time is an issue in rounds. I like encouraging people to scoop a little bit. You know, you don't have to fight out every game to the bitter end and waste 10 extra minutes sometimes. But show me that morph.
I want to see the morph. So just 2 matches in action. Of course, we saw Fabrizio Anteri won his match against Love Janse. Pretty exciting games, both of them. Wins one of them on a multi-5, wins the other one when his opponent taps out with a flying crane technique out of nowhere.
Yeah, and we thought we were going to get to see a sweet one because we knew he had a windstorm in hand.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. We have the overhead camera, and you can just see the remnants of Anteri's board. He's like, I'm just going to leave this like this for as long as possible. Just all of his permanents still in play.
Wow. He really hasn't cleaned it up?
Nope, he just walked away from it. He's like, I'm going to change my Facebook profile picture.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
There you get a look at Joel Larson.
I've flying crane techniqued a few people out. That's a card I like a lot.
There you look at Joel Larson. There you get a look at David Ingles. Playing in his PTQ, as he called it. Really hoping to make his Pro Tour debut. If the English team can survive a couple rounds of pool play here and make their way into the top 8 on Sunday, the entire English team would be qualified for Pro Tour Fate Reforged.
Yeah, and I love that. That's awesome for them. It's very tough to qualify for the Pro Tour. Something I know a lot of people worked really hard.
As it should be. It's quite an honor to get a chance to play there.
Oh, absolutely. When I first came back, the first PTQ I played was for Kyoto.
Yeah,
and,
you had to fight your way back.
Yeah, and I was not able to qualify for Kyoto. I had to sit at home and watch that one, and I think it only made me want it a lot more. And I was able to pull off the next PTQ for Honolulu and then work my way back in.
I was definitely rooting for you through like all your Facebook updates about PTQs. And
I appreciate that.
all right, we're underway here with a Forest from Ingles and a Blood Falcon from Joel Larson. There you get a look at the English team. No Pro Tour top 8s on the team, 4 Grand Prix top 8s. I think those all belong to Fabrizio Anteri.
Not the 2 closest games, but
Yeah, they do.
no, not that.
So now we're seeing that Mardu versus Obzen again, right? This
Yes.
is the Obzen that had out the Siege Rhino and whatnot.
But Larson ended up winning that game. He's up 1-0 over Ingles.
Well, he's got some cards too. I'm looking over his deck now. He's got an Ankle Shanker that can be pretty weak when you're on the defensive, but is great if your opponent's the Archer's Parapet deck.
Yeah.
That's an MVP against that deck.
And we see a morph from Larson.
He's also got Mardu Charm, Mardu Rough Rider, High Spire Mantis, 2 Ponyback Brigades, 3 Leaping Masters. His deck looks very good at attacking.
And I believe he has just put a Ponyback Brigade face down into play.
This is quite a deck. High Sentinels of Irration, one of the best rares in the set.
Wow.
And even though David has a really good deck too, this is probably a matchup that really favors Joel, because David's deck is full of walls and mid-range stuff and trying to be defensive, whereas Joel's got Trumpet Blasts and all these attackers and Ankle Shanker, and his deck really wants to be aggressive.
There you see a Karu Bloodsucker stepped in the way of the Morph, which was a Ponyback Brigade, and then that triggered Raid, which allowed the Bellowing Saddle Brute to come into play without doing any harm to Joel Larson's life total.
An interesting spot. I don't know if Joel wanted to make that trade with the Ponyback. He probably didn't want to lose 4 life from the Saddle Brute, so he's almost compelled to attack there, since there's some shot David won't block. If Joel has land, especially if Joel has Trumpet Blast in hand, you're talking about Ponyback Brigade being pretty valuable. And it looks like he doesn't have Trumpet Blast. He has Rush of Battle, but that's pretty much the same, in that those tokens would have been great with his Rush of Battle.
And there's the Ankle Shanker. So he chose not to block the Morph with the Saddle Brute. Ingles played a Hooting Mandrills, and then Joel Larson gets in with Ankle Shanker and Saddle Brute.
Yeah, and you see how David's hand now, he has a Bitter Revelation. He has Murderous Cut, so I think he'll be okay against this Ankle Shanker, because obviously he can just kill it. But his deck is really defensive, and you know, Joel's deck is really good at punching in damage and attacking through walls between 2 Trumpet Blasts, Rush of Battle, and Ankle Shanker.
Yeah, good read, by the way, from Larson on not blocking that Morph. Even though he had a 4/5, you might assume it's an Obzon guide. He didn't have the mana to unmorph a Woolly Loxodon, but he did have mana to unmorph a Pine Walker, which is what is face down for Ingles there.
Yeah, people don't bluff a lot in spots like that because it's so easy to see your opponent blocking with the 4/5. I think a lot of times it's good to bluff in spots like that for that exact reason. I mean, obviously, if it's a leveling game, you never know what's going to happen. But in reality, it's so tough to make that block, knowing they could unmorph a 5/5 and just eat your guy.
Right. So Murderous Cut takes down the Ankle Shanker.
Although in this case, if I was David, I probably wouldn't block, just because his deck's the one with the card advantage in the late game. He doesn't really need to squeeze in damage. So I think now we'll probably see Rotting Mastodon. He can always Bitter Revelation later. I think you just solidify your board. I mean, he could Bitter Revelation now. He's not under a ton of pressure, but I don't know why he needs to do it first. It's the kind of card that you generally want to do last so that you have as much information about what you need and what's going to be effective as possible. That's the main reason I wouldn't do it this turn. I would just wait.
Sees 4 spells on top of his deck.
That's also why, because if he had waited a turn, it might have been a land and 3 spells, and then he would have drawn one of those spells, so it would have been better. I'm just kidding, because obviously the cards could be in any order on top of your library.
I was a little shocked.
Yeah,
I was a little shocked. I was flabbergasted.
No, I would have waited, but it's because you want to get more information.
Yeah.
You put the Mastodon in play, you make Joel cast another thing or two, and then you know a little bit more about the game before you have to make choices like which 2 cards to take off Bitter Revelation.
Right. And if you always have the opportunity to advance your board, you always do that over drawing cards, right?
More often than not.
On a stable board.
Yeah, more often than not. I mean, always is a bit too strong for that because it's not always and it's not 99%. It's probably like 80%.
Right.
But as a general rule, you advance your board before drawing cards. Yes.
Maybe you could teach me.
So, Debilitating Injury takes down the Leaping Master. He found that Debilitating Injury with the Bitter Revelation.
They're much better when they're played by themselves.
And what's the other card he got? Tuskguard Captain?
I think he got the Tuskguard Captain, yeah.
So this game's looking to go long, I guess.
Nightmare. All right.
I don't know if Joel has much this game. It looks like his hand is just a Rush of Battle. So that Ponyback Brigade trade could come back to bite him a little bit, because Rush of Battle is the kind of card that's great with tokens and when you have a lot of creatures. Not so great when you have 1 4/5 in play. Obviously, Joel's also just pretty flooded here. He's playing the aggro deck, and he's got 7 land in play and a couple more in hand. And that's a problem with decks like Trumpet Blast, Rush of Battle decks.
You've talked about this a lot, the idea that they can flood out on a normal land count like 17 or 18
right.
play in this format.
Right, because decks like this Obzon deck, if they flood out, they have Bitter Revelation to draw cards, and they might just have big things to sink their mana into. A deck like Joel's really depends on having a lot of spells, so that he's got guys in play and Trumpet Blast in hand. If he draws a couple lands too many, he can't really do very much.
Right. So Morph and Tuskguard Captain come down. That's 2 Pine Walkers in play now for Ingles. And he's like, I'm going to get in with everybody now. Not with the wall, not with the Tuskguard Captain.
There's an option on Magic Online that they added recently that I think is a really cool feature.
Oh, yeah. Attack with all.
Yeah, and it's great because sometimes, you know, with the Splinter Twin Kiki-Jiki combos and stuff, it was a pretty big pain. And sometimes you just have like 12 guys in play with all your tokens and you do want to attack with all. In this case, he did not want to attack with all. Even though he had the throttle, so the 2-3 could have attacked if Joel had nothing. It would be a major blowout had Joel blocked the 2-3, and then he throttled, and then Joel had anything.
Joel shows him a handful of lands. The sort of reverse had all these.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to game 3 because Larson won that first game that we had peeked in on. And that means we are going to go back to Ole Rade versus Ricardo Real and check in on them as they're underway. Ghostfire Blade to lead things off for the Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's a really cool card. It's, you know, powerful, but if you have to keep paying 3 to give creatures +2/+2, it's not always that effective. Of course, I think the reason it's in this set is that morphs are colorless, so it has the ability to give a morph +2/+2 for only 1 mana. Kind of what I've been known to call a sweet print.
So a couple different 2-drop options for Ricardo Reale here. I see that he's holding Heir of the Wilds.
What's his other one? Do we know?
There we go. We're going to see it face up right now.
The Timor Charger.
Yeah, Timor Charger.
And that makes a lot of sense because Heir of the Wilds could still be effective in the late game, and you don't really want to trade it off in the early game, whereas Timor Charger will probably be blanked by the late game and is a great attacker right now.
So Rade plays a Mystic of the Hidden Way. Face down.
If you have 2/2 drops, that's generally what you want to decide. You don't always only want to think about what's a better attacker right now. You want to think, can one of these still be effective on turn 5 or 6? Because the first one you play is a lot more likely to die.
Right. And the Heir of the Wild just can blank the best ground creature later in the game.
The drawback that 2 drops normally have is that they're great on turn 2, turn 3, but then they become ineffective a lot of times in the late game. Heir of the Wilds is a great card because it's always effective. No, on turn 10, it still can stop an 8/8 from attacking you.
So Ole draws the island he would need to unmorph the Mystic of the Hidden Way. He could equip Ghostfire Blade, flip the Mystic, and start attacking, but he also wants to play his Pinewalker, and what that really means is he can't attack into. Does he want to attack into the Death Touch 2-drop here?
I actually think the right play was to equip the Ghostfire Blade and unmorph the Mystic, except Ole doesn't have an island, it looks like.
I think he did just.
He has one in hand?
He drew one this turn.
Okay, yeah, I like that play better because you can just cast the Pinewalker for 5 anyway, and you're not going to be able to really attack with the Pinewalker because of the Heir of the Wild.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
sure.
so I think if I were Ole, I would actually have just flipped the Mystic and attacked. The downside, of course, being that, you know, racing isn't exactly what you want when you're flooded, but I don't really think he was going to count on getting more out of it. I mean, he wasn't going to block the Heir of the Wilds with it, I assume. And he could play the Pinewalker this turn anyway, and it's unlikely the Pinewalker was going to be able to attack effectively. So I think the best thing he could have done last turn would have been to flip the Mystic, get in for the 5 unblockable, and then on turn 5 you can just face up the Pinewalker.
Right. Meanwhile, Winterflame taps the bigger morph and kills the smaller morph.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that because he had Winterflame.
Yeah. No. I'm just reporting what happened.
Sure. I, in fact, hadn't even seen the Winterflame yet. I think that, you know, people don't face up their morphs nearly enough. It's much easier to kill small creatures in Limited than big creatures. And a lot of times, if you have the opportunity to face up your bigger morphs, you can strand a Winterflame or Bring Low or any of the removal that really just doesn't kill big creatures. Arc Lightning, you know, Debilitating Injury. You know, you give them the opportunity sometimes by morphing Pinewalkers and Woolly Loxodons unnecessarily to take them out with these cheap removal that aren't necessarily that effective against big creatures. This would have been a tough game for Ole either way because he's a bit flooded. But, I mean, this game might look different if that Mystic had connected and was connecting again and he had a 5/5 untapped.
There's Heir of the Wilds. Bear's Companion, and Heir of the Wilds is going to get in for 3. Gets a Ferocious Trigger off the Bear token.
I wonder if he'll unmorph the Mystic or not. Usually you want to sink your mana, but if he draws nothing, it's scarier morphed because it could definitely be a Woolly Loxodon.
Right.
If he unmorphs it, it lets Ricardo know that he can attack with that bear. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, not that interesting since Ole drew all land. Certainly would have lost even if he made my play of unmorphing the Mystic and attacking.
Right.
He just he needed to find a few more spells there. It's unfortunate.
So Ole hands the match to England, or doesn't hand it. He has a handful of land that means England wins, and they advance here. Oh no, do we still have? No, that was the match. Yeah.
That would be a lot of handshakes if it wasn't the match.
Yeah, I was going to say, the game 2 handshake.
Yeah. Not something that we advise. Everybody has different opinions on what proper etiquette is, but I personally think the handshake is best served at the end of the match, not in between games.
Which is exactly what we saw there.
Yeah.
So England continuing to make their run through this tournament. They started out 0-2. They have not lost since then. They're on a 6-0 run. Sweden picks up their second loss of the tournament, but that doesn't matter necessarily in terms of record now. Now we're only concerned with pool play. We're only concerned with the record within the pool. Sweden has to go 2-1.
Right.
To guarantee that they'll advance because they were at the top of their pool.
And if England did pull off the 3-0, they might be able to advance with 1-2 because one possible breakdown is 3-0, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, Sweden in decent shape, not great shape since they lost, but certainly still alive.
Right. Sweden's certainly rooting for England to not
keep
lose
winning
anymore.
Right. And if they go 2-1, they definitely advance. And that's only two matches they have to win. And if they go 1-1, they need help.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's you need that very specific outcome 3-0, 1-2, 1-2.
And England, with being the 2 seed, they're in excellent shape right now also.
Right.
Because if they go 2-1, they definitely advance. And they're currently 1-0, so they only need to win one of their next 2 matches.
Right. Sounds like we're going to get a chance to talk to a member of the English team, so let's send it back down to the feature match area where we are waiting to hear from them.
All right, I'm down here in the feature match area. I've got Fabrizio and Terry with me. Fabrizio, you had to mulligan to 5 in your first game there. How did you pull yourself out of that?
Well, my deck got a lot of double reds, so I had to mulligan the first hand. Even it was a good hand, but I was missing reds. So mulligan to 5. I thought he was playing, he got everything, but then I found out he was actually absent. It was not a 2-color. So he was also struggling a bit. He took a lot of damage. He was protecting his morph. And last turn I needed removal for his only blocker to attack for the win. And top deck, a pretty good removal in front of Sark and the Dragon Speaker.
Yeah, that's not a bad removal spell. Now, a little bit bigger picture here for your team. Team England, you guys are now 1-0 in your pod, 2 more matches to go. How confident are you in the seal decks that you've opened?
We really like our pool deck. It's definitely stronger than the one yesterday. I think we probably just beat the strongest team in the pot, so we're really happy to get a win out of this. We were probably thinking about losing to Sweden, maybe beating Norway, and just playing in against Hungary. So definitely beating Sweden is a really nice start.
Yeah, that's a really, really good start because Sweden is one of the most stacked teams we have in the field. Now, looking forward, looking at the rest of your pod, you said you're going to be playing Norway?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's the next team, but yeah, we'll play Norway and Hungary. I don't know the order, but yeah, we really like our deck, so getting one win, we don't want to get overconfident, but hopefully we get one extra win and that should be enough.
What was your confidence level coming in before you opened up your sealed pool? Did you guys get to do a lot of practice?
Like 5 or 6, maybe not a lot. I saw the pod, I thought it was a tough one, so I mean, anyway, I like the team, so I was not, I didn't feel like destroyed when I saw the pod, but I was not feeling overconfident either. Now that we saw pools, and I'm feeling much better. Hopefully we get that win.
You know, I saw that you were coaching David there, and he mentioned in the middle of the match, he said he thinks you're the best player in England. He doesn't want to have you on his bad side by making a mistake. What's it been like taking the leadership role?
Wow, it's something I still have to work on. They all, as I mentioned, they all play much better when I'm not around, so probably should just stop looking. Actually, yesterday playing the middle match, and today they recommend that I'll play in a corner so they can play 3 players 2 matches. And it looks like they play much better when I'm not watching. David made 3 mistakes this last game. He was playing really quickly because we didn't want to draw, especially against Sweden because they have the better seats in the pot. So if we end up the pot with the same points, it will be the second, will be the third. So we definitely didn't want to draw. So he asked him to play fast, and he made a couple of mistakes. But I'm not, it's because he was playing fast, and he's extremely nervous. Normally they play much better, all of them.
Okay. Well, thanks, Fabrizio, for taking the time. Let's send it back to the booth, and Brian David Marshall.
So that's pretty interesting, Ben. You hear him talking about the idea that they don't want to draw, and that the amount of input you're giving to your other team members is actually threatening to run you out of time.
Yeah, I think that's an important concept, especially in team, but even in individual. You only have so much time to finish a match, and while we all want to play our best, it's also really important that you finish matches. You get 3 match points for a win and only 1 for a draw, so consistently finishing your matches will make up for not making the best play on every turn. And even though strategically, love of the game, you want to always make the best play and everything, you really do want to finish all your matches and are responsible for that. So I think people could maybe play a little quicker sometimes and not double check and triple check everything in the interest of finishing the round.
Right, and you see that because you have 3 less experienced players all deferring to Fabrizio, who is been to the Pro Tour more times and has so much Grand Prix success. Yeah. They're all still trying to get their Pro Tour debut.
There's no shame. I think people are afraid that they're going to make a mistake, but there's no shame in making the second best play sometimes. Magic is hard.
All right, well, it sounds like we're ready to send it back to the desk. We'll be back soon with more Magic from the World Magic Cup.
Thanks very much to the 2Bs, Brian and Ben, there in the feature match area, bringing you Sweden going down to England.
All about the alliteration today.
I can barely get anything out. I don't know what you mean. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at some of what the players built, but also in this next segment, we're going to have Ask Us Anything with Ben Hayes from Inside Wizards R&D, the 3 of us here at the desk as well. So the last few minutes to get your questions in. Thanks for all the avalanche of questions we've had already. Use the hashtag, you can see it up on your screen, MTGWMC. We will get to as many as we can in just a little while, so get your questions in now. Anything you want to know about working in R&D, about particular cards, about sets, about formats, anything you want to know about this week, the World Championship, the World Magic, anything you like, get your questions in, and we'll be with those in just a few minutes. But right now, we're going to turn our attention back to the 8 pools, and we'll see results as they come in. So we had a look at Pool A and Pool B. Why don't we start now with Pool C? And this features the Netherlands, Russian Federation, Spain, and Venezuela. Now, the result, Netherlands have beaten the Russian Federation 1v2, which means Netherlands are only 1 win away from advancing to the top 16. Spain and Venezuela, they are still playing. So, Randy, what's going on with Netherlands and the Russian Federation?
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch Frank Karsten, in particular, in action with building that Dutch deck. This is a guy who really believes in consistency and aggression in this format. So they have a 2-color red-green aggro deck with a Sarkhan on top of the curve. They have a 2-color blue-white aggro deck with, a little bit of a splash for Ifrit Weaponsmith, Jeskai Ascendancy, High Sentinels in the deck. And they have a black-white aggro deck. A little bit of a splash for Butcher of the Horde. So it's 2-color aggro, 2-color with a small splash aggro, 2-color with a small splash aggro. That's the way this Frank Karsten, do you remember him at Grand Prix Atlanta? He cashed Grand Prix Atlanta. He drafted green-white. That's not a thing in this format, but it's, 2-color, consistent mana, aggressive creature set, and he made the money at the Grand Prix with that. So Karsten in full form, and yeah, they've already got the win over the Russians. So.
Yeah, and he really liked his team. But what about the Russian Federation? What are they looking like?
A little more true to the rares and the uncommons. They've got a double Secret Plans deck. They've got a black-white-green Outlast deck. They're playing for the late game. They've got also a Jeskai Ascendancy deck with Dragon-style Twins, Dig Through Time, Master the Way. So powerful, lots of colors, but a little on the slow side. I think that I'm not surprised to see that result because the Dutch just match up really well against that kind of deck.
Okay, so why don't we go to Pool D next? This features Israel, Brazil, Portugal, and Belarus. And let's see, we have, all the results are in here. We have Israel with Shahar Shenhar, the remaining Dream Chaser, trying to claim both titles in the weekend. They advanced to 1-0 over Brazil, so that means Willie Adel now under the 8 ball to a certain extent, but still 2 more wins would get them in, no problem. Israel need 1 out of the next 2, and then your 3 seed Portugal, they defeat Belarus. Rashad, you had a little look at some of the teams in Pool D for us.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised at the Brazil result because I was looking at the Sultai deck that they had, and it had perfect mana, 4 Abominations of Vagul, and 5 on color of the ganglands. Usually, you'll get 10, maybe 12 of the dual lands / tri lands for your deck, but they're not all on color. These were just perfect for that for that deck. And they had a good Boros, a red-white aggro deck, and they had an Absent deck that was pretty good. But maybe they ran into some better decks. The matchups were just a little bit different. Maybe the decks were just too slow, which can obviously happen. But the Israel decks, their decks were very sharp and on point, at least when I was watching them build earlier. They had a Black-White Warriors deck. They had some synergies there. They had some Horde Chiefs. They had Russia Battles. They had the things that you want to see. There was a Blue-Green Temple-ish deck. There was some Ice Feather Avens going around. And they had, my favorite type of deck, which is the 5-color control, 5-color powerful spell. I'm not going to call it control because you just you draw a card, you're like, man, this card's good, and I have the mana to play it, and you draw another card, it's like, whoa, this one's good too.
Who put this one in my deck?
So I actually talked to Shahar after the match. I sort of sitting watching the England-Sweden match with Shahar, and he was showing the deck off, showing the Huey wandered over. So the way these decks worked out, it's a 2-color deck, a 2-color deck, and then Shahar's playing 5 colors. He's got 13 multi-lands in his deck. His teammates have 0 between them. He was just like, your blue-green 2-color, your black-white 2-color. I will take all 13 of the multi-lands and then all of the crazy rares. So you talk about 5-color good stuff. He's got Siege Rhino. He's got Savage Knuckleblade. By the way, those two only overlap by 1 color, for the record.
Yeah.
He's just got everything. Anyway, yeah, it was really interesting. And he was just, looking through this thing. The card quality is insane, but it's like, can you pull it off? He's also got 10 morphs with Secret Plans Ghostfire Blade.
Yeah.
So pretty cool the way Shahar put those together.
So in that group, with Brazil losing their first and Portugal winning their first, later on this morning when Brazil faced Portugal, that could easily be for a slot in the last 16. Let's move to Group E. Now, you've already seen Sweden against England. So Sweden miss out, England win that one. The result of Hungary-Norway is in, and the Norwegians, the 4th seed in the group, have taken that one over the Hungarians. Hungarians starting slow again. They were 0-2 yesterday morning. They cannot afford to do that this time. Randy, in the light of what you saw of the Swedish and English deck builds, were you surprised to see England take the first match of the day?
No, I thought both teams had sort of 2 decks I really liked and one that was maybe a little bit sketchy. The interesting thing I thought that the English did, though, is they took their fastest deck and they put it in the best player's hands. So Fabrizio Anteri wins his match really quickly. He's then able to go help with the other 2 matches. I didn't quite pick up on that. I was just watching the decks, and I thought that was really smart.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to Pool F then. This is Argentina, Mexico, Denmark, and Colombia. So we are still waiting for the result of the top 2 seeds in that pool. Argentina and Mexico still going at it, but the Danes under Thomas Enevoldsen have a win over Colombia. Rashad, what did you see from that pool?
Right, well, when I went over and watched the Argentina team build, they had a nice warrior build, which was black-white, a little bit of a red splash, had some Mardu rares in there. They had a nice Sultai deck over there, too, obviously with the same key morphs that the other Sultai decks are usually running. But they also had this Jeskai deck that kind of aired on the aggressive side, and then it had, in the hostilities in the pool, which obviously doesn't combo well with, the aggressive strategy. But a Wrath of God effect is, a decent reset situation if you're in that predicament. I got over to the Mexico team a little bit late in the build. They had 2 decks already stacked up, looked like they were ready to reg, and then they were just staring at this incomplete Sultai deck with just a spattering of black, green, and blue cards just surrounding it, all going in and out and in and out. And I understand a little Spanish, and they were counting the mana, and then they were looking at a lack of dual lands and tri-lands, and they're like, no, put that one out, put that one back in, put that one out, put that one back in. So I'm not sure how that ended up. And I was wondering if we would kind of be able to guess from the result, but it's not in yet. So we'll see if that worked out for them.
All right. For the first time today, you will hear the words, the group of death. And that's Group G, because we have some pretty eye-watering results coming here. Here is Group G. And what you see there is that, okay, sure, the United States, who, how on earth are they the 4th seed, beat the Dominican Republic, but Uruguay have thrown this pool wide open because they have beaten the 2012 World Magic Cup champions Chinese Taipei. And that means that when the United States face Chinese Taipei, for, by the way, the 2nd time this weekend it'll be, they can potentially put Chinese Taipei out of this competition with a win. Wow, that match is going to be absurd. Not sure when that comes up. Could be round 2, could be round 3. But right now, Uruguay in pole position. They need 1 win out of 2. Randy, what did you see in this group?
Yeah, these are interesting decks. Chinese Taipei has a deck with Sultai Ascendancy and 2 dead drops, which is kind of works out well, even 2 Opulent Palaces. So pretty nice Sultai deck. They have a black-white deck, which seemed a little bit schizophrenic to me, because it's got some aggression, like most of the black-white warrior decks do, with a Raider spoil, but then it's also got an End Hostilities, because you're not going to not play End Hostilities. So I mean, some power, but maybe a little bit of schizophrenia. And then their red-green deck, 3 Arrow Storms was the highlight, and I'm talking about commons. That's not a good sign. I mean, it does have odd dragon-style twins, but what it did not have is an X-Spell. That's been the key to them beating the Americans the 2 previous times they've faced them the last couple of years. No Crater's Claws, no X-Spell this time around. The other group I watched in this was Team USA. And Team USA, I mean, I looked at their decks look great. I saw Owen wandering over to the sort of where the players were hanging out after the match saying, we won and our decks are good. It's like, that was a pretty good combination. And I mean, here's how good their decks were. They've got red-green, like 4 Savage Punch with, red-green fatties going. A couple of Arc Lightnings. They're like, well, this deck doesn't need the Arc Lightning. I could give it to the Jeskai deck, which is sort of Jeskai Ascendancy, aggression, tokens. But it's like, well, this deck doesn't need the Arc Lightnings either. You get these 2 Arc Lightnings that are like, both decks are fine without them. It becomes this question of where's the optimal place to place, and that's how much power they had going on. Oh, by the way, their Abzan deck has not 1, but 2 Dune Blasts.
Awesome. Let's look at Group H. This is Serbia, the Czech Republic, South Africa, and Slovenia. And so let's take a look. Serbia, you see, are winners there. They defeat the Czech Republic. So the Czech Republic, Stanislav Sivka, goes down there. Serbia are the winners. And South Africa, they continue their great run of form at the World Magic Cup over Slovenia. That puts Slovenia in deep trouble as a bottom seed at 0-1. They can still make it in at 2-1. We will see what happens in Group H. But I'm delighted to say that we are going to be joined here at the desk now by Mr. Ben Hayes from Inside R&D. We spread out even further. Ben, thanks so much for being with us. We've got a ton of great questions from the folks at home, so why don't we get down to them? So that's me and Randy and Rashad and Ben. Let's see what questions we have coming our way in our Ask Us Anything. Incidentally, Scotland defeat Guatemala. That result is in. Here's our first question. Best food in Nice so far, Randy?
Oh, it was definitely this, I don't know what the name of it is. Hélène Bergeau tweeted a picture of it. It came from the grocery store. It's this tub of basically pork pate. It had like this layer of lard over the top of it, but it looked a little sketchy. It was insane. You get like bread, you dig in there, you get like the pork bits that they've carved off the bone. Oh my God. It was just like French grocery store food. It was insane.
Okay, Ben, how about you? Because this is your first time here, right?
My first time in Nice.
Right.
Yeah, everything I've had since I've been here has been great. I've had a lot of steaks and a lot of pasta dishes, but I actually have to go with Randy also. I didn't know what it was. I had.
Still don't.
It was
I
highly
still don't
recommended.
really know what it is.
People were yelling at Hélène, how could you not tell us about this food? She's like, oh, you can't get it in the States.
Yeah.
Turns out you can. There's a French grocery store in the area. We can get it.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to ask you where that is.
All right.
All right, let's move on to our next question, and it comes from Mareback MTG, and it's this. Any way we can get mandatory team uniform / attire? Everyone seems to like it. I sure do. It would be interesting if we had an actual uniform designer, but I mean, what would you do? Like 72 countries, would you go with national dress? Would you have American football helmets for everyone that they
Let's
had
give
to
them
play?
all hats. Let's give them
Hats?
all nice hats with flags sticking.
With flags sticking out the top.
The Dominican Republic still wins with the Garrick horns and the pelt over their shoulders. Yeah. So good.
Pretty extraordinary. For those of you who haven't seen the picture, though, my favorite competitor is definitely Captain Latvia. You have Captain America in America. Well, he's Captain Latvia in the flag with the scarf. It's like, I don't think he has superpowers, though, because they are not here on day 2. But there we are. So next question. Thanks very much, Mareback MTG. From Human Cleric. Why are the players taking the Morse out of the sleeves when they play them? Anybody?
I know the answer.
Oh.
Do you want to answer it?
Sure, I'll answer it. Well, in case you didn't know, you are required to reveal your morphs at the end of each game. And if you don't, it's a pretty steep penalty because of the, the actual advantage or disadvantage your opponent has, and you get from not revealing it. And it's a game loss. So what one player actually, Ari Lax. Yeah, Ari Lax actually started innovating this. If you take that card out of your sleeve and then play it as a morph and put the morph overlay over it, if you say forgot to reveal that morph, it would be easy to prove which card it was because it would be the only unsleeved card. You go, oh, here's my morph for that game. And then it's just a way to avoid, a very unwanted penalty. And
reminding yourself to reveal it at the end of the game. Yeah.
Okay, good answer. Thank you very much. Next question. And the question is, okay, this is a good one. Here we go, Ben. Mechanics-wise, what impact do you think the new set block system will have? There's an air of curiosity surrounding the game. All right, where you go?
So moving over to the new system with no core set, we're definitely going to have to spread out the mechanics and complexity more. The core set's this kind of nice break from a very focused 3-set block, and we don't have that. We don't have that sort of simple break anymore. So there's going to be, the sets are going to look a little different, and it's just going to be sort of more spread out among those 4 sets because we don't have that last thing in the year to sort of bring the complexity level down a little bit.
Okay, let's move on. Thanks very much to Mewiabe. And now we have Double D Bray. Did you expect Jeskai Ascendancy to do all the crazy things that it has done, or was it designed to be more of a glorious anthem?
I want to know the answer to this, too.
It was primarily designed to be a glorious anthem for the Jeskai decks with some abilities that they would be able to take advantage of. We sort of know that it had more abilities than +1/+1. But
okay.
Yeah.
So do you go out of your way, are combo cards the things that R&D has the most sort of check marks on in terms of red alert? Like, is that the thing that you are most aware of when you're going through development? It's like, hey, look, this is a card that could do crazy things, must keep an eye.
We certainly test them a lot, but we're testing a lot of things. I mean, combos are important, whether something has 4 or 5 toughness relative to the damage, burn spells, and the minus effects in the format is also very important. So it's really impossible to say that one thing is the most important. We definitely do test those combo cards, and we go through that checklist, though, certainly.
All right, let's take a look at our next question, thanks to Double D Bray. And now here's the BGD. You see, I love it when people ask a question and then they answer it themselves. How insulting is it to bring up a Lara art when showing Meddling Mage? Very. Well, we needn't answer that, need we? Because you already know. And why doesn't the winner of Worlds get a card? I think the interesting thing here, Ben, is just to talk a little bit about how a card gets made, because the idea, because we used to do that with the old invitationals, but how does a card get made?
Well, a lot of cards get made in sort of waves in design. They'll be, let's all break and make 20 or 30 cards based around this mechanic or around this theme, and then we'll pick the ones we like the most, and those will get added to the set. But I mean, the whole process of a card getting made from design into development, being playtested and limited and constructed, being commissioned for art, then the art coming in, the sketch coming in, then you're sort of locked into these parameters that the art sets for you. It's just a really incredible process that I couldn't really have imagined all the parts of it before I started working at Wizards. So.
Randy, you were in R&D when those invitational cards were being made.
Sure.
How much of a headache were they to get done?
It varied. I mean, in some cases, you'd have a player who maybe, didn't care about it. Like Ularade famously didn't even submit a card design until like a couple of years after he won the Invitational. He's like, oh, this really is a cool thing. Yeah, I want my card. And Roselord's like, okay, but you have to have the hair from when you won, not the current shaved military look. But I mean, sometimes the card would come in and Chris Pakula submitted the Meddler. It was 1 UU, name a card when you play it, and then you could sack it to counter that card. But I knew that we were in Plane Shift and we were doing gold cards. So it's like, this could be UW, right? It could be a 2-mana, it could be a 2/2, and I don't like this whole sack thing. So I essentially suggested to Chris, we just kind of morph it into this thing that would fit in the set perfectly, and then it just hit. It was just kind of perfect for what we were trying to do with the set. So sometimes it was easy, where you've got, the germ of the idea, and then you kind of combine that with what is going on in the set. But I mean, there are other times it's hard and you're struggling and you're going back and forth, and it's definitely tricky.
All right, on we go. Thanks, BGD. Next question comes from Matty Inacardi. This is hard. If you could go back in time and stop a set from being made, what set would you pick, Ben?
Well, I wouldn't stop any of them from being made.
Okay.
Because we're here, and I think all of them contributed to us being here.
Right.
But I did go 10-0 in Constructed in my first Pro Tour and 2-4 in Rise of the Eldrazi draft. So I wasn't very good at that draft format, and I guess, let that say what it says.
All right, listen, thank you so much for all your questions. Thanks very much to Ben Hayes. The great news is that the players are ready. Now, I'm having a look at the feature matches. We are going to Pool G. Pool G, if memory serves, let me just check here. Yep, that features Uruguay and the Dominican Republic. But we thought we'd show you the other match. It's bonfire time, Chinese Taipei against the United States of America.